When homeowners moved into a San Marcos subdivision a few years ago, many didn't realize that they'd soon have to pay extra for flood insurance.
The subdivision is next to the Blanco River, which is considered a dry riverbed, so it doesn't show up as a river on the map. But that river overflowed with floodwater in 2015, wiping out parts of Wimberley and killing 13 people. Now, the developer, aware of the risk, took steps to keep properties safe if the river rises.
And Sam Stark explains why, despite this, the people living there are still being forced to purchase flood insurance.
You don't buy a home knowing it's going to be designated in a floodplain and cost you extra insurance money, make it harder to sell, and lose value on your home. You're not going to do that, nor would have I.
Victoria Meza purchased her home in the Blanco Vista subdivision in San Marcos in 2021. A few months ago, her mortgage company sent her a letter saying she had 45 days to buy flood insurance or it would buy it for her.
I'm told I have to immediately buy a flood policy. It has to be paid all in cash, and if I don't believe I'm in a floodplain, I have to pay over $1,100 to get, an elevation certificate.
Following the devastating Wimberley floods in 2015 and before this subdivision was built, FEMA conducted a flood insurance study for San Marcos and Hays County. The new flood insurance rate maps didn't go into effect until the beginning of this year. They now show Meza's home in the flood hazard zone. The city of San Marcos told KXAN when FEMA conducted the study, the subdivision was still being designed. So development choices like these drains and an artificial embankment, which were intended to remove the subdivision from the floodplain, were not taken into account.
So everything north of this has the protection of this levee.
FEMA told us that it received a letter of map revision and it's still reviewing it.
This is not a wealthy neighborhood with money just to throw around. And that's why I say, number one, I feel it kind of like we had a bait and switch because we weren't told that this was considered to be in any kind of flood zone ever.
It would be good if that designation is taken away, and I know they're working on that, but it doesn't mean you should just forget about flood insurance.
Mark Friedlander from the Insurance Information Institute said 90% of U.S. natural disasters involve flooding, and he said only 14% of Texas homes are covered with flood insurance.
Yes, you don't want to be forced into it with the floodplain designation, got that, but still everybody should really consider it. We've seen severe flood events not only in the Austin area, but across the Lone Star State.
One of those, the 2015 Memorial Day flood in Wimberley that set all of this in motion.
Yeah, we lost everything, except for what we were wearing.
Pete Fletcher lives in a neighborhood along the Blanco River. Fletcher said he had flood insurance, but that it didn't end up covering all the damage.
Every house in the neighborhood flooded. The house here got water up to the ceilings.
10 years later, he said he's still making repairs, but he has no intention on ever leaving.
It's a beautiful place on the river.
Sam Stark, KXAN News.
And FEMA's changes didn't take effect until this year. Now, Texas requires a seller's disclosure notice, which notifies buyers if a property is in a floodplain. Now, according to FEMA, you can ask to get your property's flood designation changed. The agency's website states if an owner thinks their house has been listed in a high-risk flood zone by accident, they can submit an online request to FEMA for a letter of map change. Now, if approved, the property owner could be eligible for lower flood insurance premiums or the option to not purchase flood insurance at all.